We got used to Michael Saylor announcing huge Bitcoin buys on Monday, and the price has been responding positively for over the last month, but not today. Bitcoin is dumping. Well, it had a dump for ants today, but there is one signal that explains just how this isn't weird. It actually happens to Bitcoin every single year. But before we get into that, let's just cover what happened this morning. So Strategy announced another buy, taking about 3,200 Bitcoin off the market forever. Of course, that's 8 times the daily amount of Bitcoin mined per day. Let's get into that. Here we go. So Saylor, again, announced another Bitcoin buy. This one, however, is a lot smaller than the ones we've seen the last few weeks. Yes, last week we did see another $1 billion week for Strategy, in particular to the stretch product. This morning, it's getting a little smaller, which is very interesting. I was looking at the stretch numbers this morning about how much Bitcoin is going into it so far today. It is dying down a little bit, which is I wouldn't say it's a cause for concern here, but it is looking like it's slowing down. It is looking like the interest into the stretch product, at least so far this week, is dying down a little bit. But here's the announcement. Strategy acquired 3,273 Bitcoin for roughly $255 million. Now, of course, they hold about 818,334 Bitcoin. And part of this that is funny to me, he's buying $255 million, and we're like, it's small. Like, Saylor's losing control of the market. He's not able to attract as much capital as he was before, and yet it's still a $255 million buy. So it is interesting how in context, in comparison to some of the buys we've seen from Saylor, or rather MicroStrategy or Strategy, this one is a little less than we're used to right now. And obviously, you could make the case that maybe it's because people are losing interest in Strategy, or right now, maybe he's not able to attract that much capital. It's still a huge buy in comparison to anyone else out there buying Bitcoin. And just to compare a little bit, here is Strive. They announced a buy as well, 789 Bitcoin for $61 million. So there is some interest coming in through the Bitcoin treasury plays. They're still acquiring a lot of Bitcoin, which has been going into the idea that it seems like there's probably only going to be a couple of winners in regards to the Bitcoin treasury play. I think it's probably going to be MicroStrategy, Metaplanet. Strive's been holding on pretty good. We haven't really heard too much from 21 Capital, but there's still a lot of interest right now. It is down a little bit. But there's still general institutional interest, which I will cover in a minute. But I'm sure everyone's wondering, I thought you said on Friday, Opti, that the bear market was over, that we're finally going to start seeing this slow grind up higher. And I was totally convinced of that until I remembered that we have the Bitcoin conference today. And I love the Bitcoin conference. Actually, I was going to save this for later, but I'll just pull it up right now since I'm talking about it. Check out Nico. Some picks this morning. I'm not in Las Vegas today, but we got our own little booth in there. It's looking kind of nice. So Bitcoin Conference 2026 in Las Vegas, live today. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because everyone knows, literally everyone knows, if you've been in Bitcoin for a while, every single time we see the Bitcoin conference, the price starts dumping. We don't know why. Literally, we don't know why this happens. And I don't want to make this sound like I'm saying this is the Bitcoin conference's fault. We love the boys over at Bitcoin Magazine. It just seems every single year, like clockwork, the Bitcoin price is going to dump when the Bitcoin conference starts. And I think this is what we're seeing. Again, we don't really know why this happened. We just see a lot of selling, or as we saw this morning, some liquidations, and the Bitcoin price dumps. Now, I know everyone in the chat's like, oh, here we go, Opti fear-mongering again, or trying to blame Nico, and Nico's not even on the show today. But this is just what happens every year. Every single year, like clockwork, the Bitcoin price goes down around the Bitcoin conference. And then shortly after, it's going to make a good run. And of course, it wasn't even that bad. If you're looking at the technical levels, we did kind of bounce off that resistance level of 78, 79. It almost got to 80K this morning, and then we got rejected, and currently around like 76. At least that's what the price was before I started the show. I haven't checked it since I started the show. But in general, overall view of where we are is very interesting. And shouts out to, first of all, Ansel. Shouts out to Ansel Linder. I love his account. But I also got some updated charts from the Bitwise. Andre from Bitwise, kind of showing where we currently are, how much the interest is coming from the institutions. But here's Ansel's view. He goes, this is nuts. Huge negative funding rates with the price about to break out. This is a recipe for a fast-moving price back to all-time high. And you can see 3 standard deviations for negative funding rates. That's huge. Essentially, what this has been telling us is it's almost like the entire market is short right now. And even though we did kind of get a long liquidation this morning and hence the price going down a little bit, overall, we are seeing a pretty good setup for an aggressive move on the opposite direction. But with this in mind, we are seeing that there are forces that are trying to keep Bitcoin under 80K. For how long? Obviously, we don't know. And for what reasons? Obviously, we don't know. Maybe they're just trying to pack their bags before things start getting a little frothy in the market. But again, it's the Bitcoin conference. And even though I was bullish last week and I'm like, man, it really feels like we are going to break out. After the Friday show, I remembered it's the Bitcoin conference week. And we're going to probably see a dump happen in front running of the Bitcoin conference. Now, I think we're going to get some very big news coming out of the Bitcoin conference. Obviously, this is usually where a lot of the big Bitcoin announcements happen every year. So it could be a big week. We could get some really good clips. We could get some really good news stories coming out of the Bitcoin conference. It literally just started and nothing really happened yet so far. First day is a little slow and then it picks up into tomorrow and Wednesday. So I'm expecting some pretty big news coming out of the Bitcoin conference this week. Will it be anything fundamentally game-changing that's going to drive the Bitcoin price? Probably not. We are in a scenario right now where it doesn't really matter what news we're hearing. Bitcoin's kind of just doing its own thing. In the past, when you get any amount of the news that we've seen in the last year, the Bitcoin price would rip. Right now, it seems like the price action is independent of any single news story happening, but it is building a very strong foundation for when we do make another move up. Now, I did see a lot of people over the weekend talking about the, the 4-year cycle, how it's playing out exactly as designed. A lot of people are still doubling down on the idea that we're going to probably be going sideways until Q3 of this year. No one really knows. But what we do know is the amount of interest coming into Bitcoin has fundamentally changed. We are in a new era. Yes, the Bitcoin price is still kind of playing out how we've known it would in previous cycles. But the interest that we're seeing is one of those very silent moves that I think is building for what is going to be the next leg up. So we could be having cheap sats until Q3 of this year. It could also fundamentally change a little bit. But hey, another year, another Bitcoin dump on the conference day. So right now is a good time to be buying. I said it on Friday's show. Would you be buying right now? And I keep saying the same thing. I think so. I think now is a good time to buy. Obviously, if you think it's going to go lower, then you don't want to lump sum in. But if you're just thinking long-term, lump sum, don't think about it for 10 years. You're going to be good to go. But as I was telling you, I do have some more of an institutional perspective of what's going on. And here's Andre again. He is from Bitwise, European head of research. And he goes, chart of the weeks. Institutions bought roughly 92.9 thousand Bitcoin in the past 30 days, while on-chain selling pressure cooled to roughly 14.9 thousand Bitcoin in outflows. Demand is rising, outflows are slowing, downside pressure on Bitcoin is fading, which is what I told you guys on Friday, which is, yes, we are still kind of in the gulags. Yes, we're still kind of going sideways, but what we have seen in the last couple of months is there seems to be seller exhaustion going on right now. There doesn't seem to be that much Bitcoin being sold, especially in the face of all of the buying we're seeing. Obviously, a very simple supply-demand economics is just going to explain to you, well, then why is the price not going up? It's because there's more people selling. But we're starting to see that the selling is slowing. And once we get that selling pressure completely off the table, that's when we start running. Now, with that in mind, obviously, I think there are some very interested parties to make sure that the price doesn't start ripping right now. As we see a lot of the Bitcoin products from Wall Street start to get rolled out, as we start to see different positionings in longs and shorts play out, we're starting to get a little bullish here, even though the price did go down a little bit. But reading the sentiment in the chat, everyone's like, a dip. We didn't even dump. We're at like 76K. It's like maybe not even a 1% move. Yes, but it is funny that, again, we've been saying for a while, all our models are broken except for a few models that still play out. And one of them is, no matter what, like clockwork, on the conference day, we get a dump. It's just one of those things that, as a Bitcoiner, if you've been around for a long time, you hope that this time is different, and yet it plays out exactly as designed. The heuristic of it dumped on conference day. It's still undefeated, but that doesn't necessarily change the long-term trajectory here. I still think what I said on Friday, what Saylor's actually been saying, the crypto winter is over, and a conference day dump, I think both of those things are not mutually exclusive. I think we can both say that, yeah, it dumped on conference day, but also I think we might have escaped a very deep drawdown in the Bitcoin bear market. We only got down to 45% at the deepest so far. Obviously, it's not over. It could go even further, but it is starting to feel like this time is different. And I know when I say that, it's probably dumping as I speak. But anyways, Andre also updated and goes, boom, net institutional demand growth for Bitcoin reaccelerates to the highest levels since late 2025. So again, the narrative is building. The data is supporting what we've been seeing happen in Bitcoin. The institutional interest into Bitcoin is starting to heat up. We're starting to reaccelerate. There is a lot of buying coming on through the ETFs, through institutional positioning for a long-term movement. But as of yet, we are not completely out of the woods yet. Saylor might believe the Bitcoin bear market is over. We also might believe the Bitcoin bear market is over, but there's still some selling, some spot Bitcoin selling that is driving down the market right now. And this is one of those questions that I always ask myself around conference day. It's the biggest event in Bitcoin. And yet every single time it dumps on us. It's just part of the fun and roller coaster of being in Bitcoin. But an update on where we currently are in Bitcoin for the month of April is also pretty bullish, though there's still this big trend, or rather big idea, that we're going to get a bullish April and then people are going to sell in May and then they go away, as we have seen play out in the past. But as of now, if Bitcoin closes above 79K, it's going to be the best performing April in 6 years. So this was posted a little while ago. So I'm going to go to the updated view here. And you can see we are up. Well, I can barely see that. We are up almost 14% for April. If we get to 79K, if we close above 79K, then that's going to be one of the most bullish Aprils we've seen in Bitcoin since basically 2020. And that number there, 2020, 2019, when we saw a very bullish April, we also saw a very bullish May. Even last year, we saw a bullish May. So this idea that everyone's saying that, oh, we're going to go up in April, it's going to dump in May, it might not exactly play out that way. Even last year, we were roughly around this number, and we got another very bullish May afterwards. So could history repeat like last year and we get a bullish April, May, June, July? I would love to see that. That would be great. And then obviously, would that necessarily end the idea that the bear market ends in October of this year, Q3 of this year? We shall see. But here we go. We'll do some quarterly returns here. And, so far, so good into this year. It's almost playing out exactly as we did last year. But let's just hope we don't have a very negative Q4. But as we all know, in Bitcoin, sometimes it's the heuristics and the memes that play out the best. And if we were waking up this morning expecting to see Saylor continue to control the Bitcoin price, I mean, he's obviously not alone in pushing the Bitcoin price up, but it seems like he's the one single-handedly moving the Bitcoin price with the amount of Bitcoin he's scooping up. I think we were kind of expecting a little more bullish Monday going into conference week. But again, Bitcoin conference dump still in play. Some of the models that we have, or rather maybe some of the heuristics that we know, I was going to say know and love, maybe know and hate, still play out like clockwork. So I wouldn't be too surprised if this week we see a little bit of red action because of the conference. Again, this is not saying anything in regards to how much I love the Bitcoin Magazine conference. It just plays out like clockwork. So if people are looking at the Bitcoin price and I think they're using this conference day dump as the reason for us going to maintain a bear market for another couple of months, I think that's probably just engagement baiting at this point. I think what we're seeing is just kind of playing out exactly as designed, exactly as we know it to be. Now, I didn't really want to do any chart bowling for you guys right now, but at this point, you guys can yell at me. Let's see. I'd love to see a 4 or 5 up months in a row. I know, right? That would be great. Here, actually, let me go back here and we'll chat about it via this chart here. So it would be pretty great. I mean, look. 2025 obviously wasn't the best year. It almost felt like we went sideways the entire year. Now, I don't want to see that play out again. I actually want to see some life in the price action of Bitcoin. But if we do see some slight pumping all the way until July, I'd be okay with that. That'd be fun. Maybe we see a 2020 or 2017 type year. That'd be great. I'd be here for that. Though these numbers are a little off, are a little less bullish than we saw in 2017, obviously. But man, it is a slow Monday. And I think what we're seeing is, I think a lot of the big news that we're going to have this week are being saved for conference announcements. So today, if I remember correctly, usually the first day is like industry day. So we won't see probably any big announcements coming out of the Bitcoin conference today. I think most of the big announcements will happen tomorrow and Wednesday, but I think everyone's eyes are on the conference right now. As we've been covering, actually, there was a lot of debates and skirmishes over the weekend in regards to some of the speakers and speeches at the conference. But I think what we're going to see is, again, some very good announcements come out of this. I think we will probably get some pretty big news stories. And we're all kind of looking at the Bitcoin conference this year and really wondering, how can they go up from what we saw the last couple of years? Like, what could be a big announcement coming out of the Bitcoin conference that is going to fundamentally change people's opinion of Bitcoin? And it's really hard for me to see anything coming out of the Bitcoin conference that's going to be a game-changing, world-shattering announcement. But I would not underestimate the Bitcoin Mag team. David Bailey does a very good job of kind of saving a lot of the big news stories and then dropping them on us out of basically like a surprise announcement. So I'm pretty excited to see what comes out of the conference today, or rather this week. Obviously, I'm at home. I'm still in Miami. I had to do the stream. Mexico huddle. Thanks for the super chat, bro. 25, bro. WTF can be said at Bitcoin conference that hasn't been said before. Honestly, that is kind of what I also am feeling, at least for this year. Well, not only that everything has already been said at a conference, but really more, how can they up the ante from the last few years? I can't really think of anything that would fundamentally be a game-changing announcement coming from the conference, but every year big news comes out of the conference. This year I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around what could actually be big news this year. It feels like everything's already happened. It feels like all the announcements we've seen over the last 6 months, 9 months, a year are way probably bigger news that been kind of swept under the rug. So I don't know what's going to come out of it. I'm sitting here just like you guys wondering what's going to be the big news this year. Obviously, there is one fundamental difference from this year based on last year, and I think this is where all the drama is coming out in regards to what is happening at the Bitcoin conference. It's some of the people that are speaking there. There's been a big push, at least on Twitter, of this idea of like, oh, now we are giving the enemies, speaker time at the Bitcoin conference. The very people that we thought we were here to disintermediate are now at the conference. And a lot of people are getting mad about that. And then there's the flip side of everyone's going to use Bitcoin, even our enemies. And now they want to speak to us at our conference. Now they want some, FaceTime at the conference. What can they say? What are even should they even be allowed to speak? And I think from at least my perspective, it's always been Bitcoin is for anyone. Bitcoin is for enemies. So I'm going to be very interested to see the sound bites, to see what comes out of the conference. But if you're looking at the price action today and trying to really make a broader picture of, oh, look, I told you Bitcoin was bad because it dumped. I don't even know. Let me, I'll pull up my chart today just for some lulz, just so I can get a little context here. Actually, I'm not even going to pull it up. I'll do it behind the scene. The Bitcoin price dumped 3%, 3% on the day. And everyone is saying, oh no, it is officially over. Are you supposed to watch this? Whatever you want, man. Whatever you want. If you're here watching us, obviously appreciate it. I will definitely give you guys the highlights of the conference when I'm gonna be scourging the psyops coming. I'm gonna be looking at all the highlights coming out of the conference. I will package it for you guys. So if you don't want to sit and watch the conference, 8-9 hours of speakers, I will summarize as best I can all of the news coming out of the conference for you guys. So maybe you have less time. Maybe you don't want to sit there and watch a conference for 9 hours a day. I'll show you. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. I will give you the highlights tomorrow and Wednesday, and most likely Thursday if I'm not able to cover everything on the show. Let's see. Oh, man, that's a good comment. Thank you for the other super chat, bro. Actually, I'll read it, I guess. No, wait, maybe not. No, we love the conference, bro. We love the conference. Come on. But for everyone that's out there in Vegas, I know you're not going to be able to see me. I know you're saddened about it. But definitely go hang out at our booth. Go say what's up. Go give Nico your vitriol in person. I doubt that would actually don't do that. Don't be mean to Nico. Be nice to him in person. They're working hard over there. Some of the team will be out there. So if you're in Vegas, go hang out by the booth. Got some of the Bitcoin or Simply Bitcoin team there. It's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of this. I think I'm more interested in what comes out of this because it seems like I just don't know what the big announcement would be. Like, what could the big announcement be here that is going to really put a stamp on Bitcoin Vegas 2026? Now, maybe it's because I just don't know what they're going to talk about. They definitely have some treats hidden up their sleeves here. But it's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see what we see on stage, what the clips are. So that's probably going to be the bulk of this week for you guys. We're just going to be covering most likely the news stories coming out of the conference. We'll see how the media reacts to this conference this year, especially since it is a bear market conference. At least that's kind of the sentiment here. But we'll be covering it for you guys all week long, okay? Actually, God, you're funny, man. You're funny. Yo, all right, okay. Yeah, DB, you're so true. It's so true. They contributing. Yeah. I think one of the big interesting ideas that we're starting to see on chain is just that retail is no longer in control. I think that's the biggest signal we've seen in the last few months. It's institutions. Institutions are wholly in control of the Bitcoin price, at least short term, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, long term, I don't think that my thesis has changed on where this is going long term, but short term, I think institutions are 100% in control. Actually, there's an interesting stat, and when I was seeing this, it just made me think of the amount of shorting, and I don't want to say institutional capture of Bitcoin price, but did you guys see the news that Jane Street made like $40 billion of profit? And my first thought was like, damn, dude, it's so profitable controlling the Bitcoin price, because we were all speculating that Jane Street's been the one that's really been suppressing Bitcoin. Well, obviously, we don't know their financials here. We don't know where the bulk of that money came from. But that I think it was $39.1 billion. I guess it just goes to show it's very profitable to try to control the Bitcoin price where we currently are. At a certain point, that's going to break. And then that's when the fun really is going to start to happen, at least for us. Obviously, for us Bitcoin holders, I know everyone says Bitcoin price is the least interesting aspect of this, but that always changes when we start to see a little bit of green in the market. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. You guys don't get stretched. It's true. That's why I don't buy it. That's why I tell you to just buy spot. But hey, people love it. It's got a huge amount of interest. Actually, I'll do a little update before I move on. We'll see what's going on today with the numbers for Stretch. Again, here is Bitcoin for Corporations. I really like this site. And you can see, let's see, 120 million on the day for Stretch. It's kind of interesting considering that Saylor or Strategy bought, what was it? 255 million? 255 million last week. Well, announced it this morning, and already 120 million into the Stretch product for the day. Now, let's see if Saylor is able to attract another $1 billion this week in Stretch. That's probably the bigger news story for me this week. Wondering, can Saylor repeat the $1 billion week of inflows into Stretch for the fourth week in a row? For the entire month of April, Saylor potentially can attract $1 billion into Stretch. Now, if this trend continues on, I think that is a lot of signal for how much interest there is into not only Bitcoin, but into the Stretch product. So we have a couple of stories. Obviously, the big kind of thing that we will be watching this week is what news comes out of the Bitcoin Conference 2026. And then I will be watching very closely. I'll probably cover it for you guys on Friday, since we'll get all of the updated numbers. Can Saylor attract another $1 billion into Stretch by the end of the week to secure a 4-week run of $1 billion into Stretch? Or is that demand dying right now? Or rather, maybe waning a little bit. Maybe they've attracted all the money so far, and we'll see what goes on. Anyways, brand one. Why don't the people buying Stretch just buy Bitcoin? It's a different market, man. It's for the fixed income. I'm guessing, again, I'm not the biggest Stretch enjoyer, I guess, to just put it lightly, but it's attracting capital from capital that can actually just go straight into Bitcoin. That's kind of the point. Or rather, maybe from people that want to get a yield, 11.5% return on their capital. Obviously, as we all know, Bitcoin doesn't have a yield return here. It's servicing a different part of the market. It's servicing a different market than just a spot Bitcoin buyers. But it is in itself a Bitcoin buyer. So people that are probably interested in Stretch, maybe they're not so interested in Bitcoin at all. Maybe all they want is that 11.5% return. Because in other assets that are similar, that are other, fixed income yield assets, they only get about I think it was 3.5%. So it is attracting capital from people that probably aren't interested in Bitcoin. That's the big kind of, I think, move that Saylor made here. Anyways, going further, what do I got for the rest of the show? Oh yeah, guys. So we got a new clip from Trump talking about the, quote, crypto markets. An interesting post about the billionaire tax in California that Chamath posted on. He did a breakdown of it on Twitter, and it really reminds you of the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. It's not surprising if you are a Bitcoiner, if you understand how governments work. And then in the culture, as the saying says, ask and ye shall receive. I got to talk about the BitKey. They just announced the latest update of their BitKey. It's absolutely beautiful. And I think it's making a couple of statements that I'll cover at the end of the show. So that's today's show. What was it staged, guys? What are you talking about? I don't know. Anyways, I'll be right back. Give me a commercial break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right, guys. We are getting on the break. We're getting some. Sorry. I got distracted. I got distracted by the chat, but we're getting some sound bites already coming out of the Bitcoin conference. So I'm going to look at the program real quick because I could have swore Monday is usually, or the first day is usually like industry day, but it looks like here I'll pull it up for you guys. It looks like we're going to be getting some Going to be getting some sound clips, some sound bites, some news happening today. Looks like it's going to be 3 days of programming here. So not just, yeah, actually today. Okay, cool. So I was the opinion that today was going to be industry day, but it looks like we're going to be getting some announcements for you guys very quickly. So I'm guessing tomorrow I'll cover whatever news comes out. The show will probably be heavily influenced by what's coming out of the conference. So maybe the rest of this week, it'll just be Bitcoin Conference 2026 summaries. But here we are. Current Bitcoin price is 76,000. Oh, I didn't even... Sorry, guys. I didn't even show you guys the agenda, but trust me, I was looking at the website. Current Bitcoin price is 76,740, which is a 39.2% discount from all-time high. The market cap, we're still holding on to 1.54 trillion, and the block height is 946,901. All right, guys, so a little change up. We are going to move away a little bit from the conference news because we got an interesting soundbite over the weekend. Obviously, I'm sure you guys heard or saw or are making up some kind of speculations about what happened this weekend. But if you were completely unplugged this weekend, there was another, how do I say this for YouTube? There was another attempt at Mr. President's life. I don't know if that's YouTube friendly. Let's hope I don't get kicked off. And there was this whole, big event. It was probably the biggest news in regards to what happened over the weekend. There was a White House correspondent dinner. There was, I'm having trouble saying this so that it doesn't sound too bad on YouTube. There was something that happened at the dinner, which basically shut down the dinner. But that's not what we're going to talk about. That's probably the bigger mainstream news story. I'm sure you guys saw it. It was probably everywhere. If you were on Twitter, you probably saw the memes too. But that's not what we're talking about. There is another little Trump story that we saw over the weekend, and in particular in regards to Bitcoin or crypto. And he was being interviewed, and he said something pretty interesting. And I will give you the cynical take, and then I also will give you probably the more bullish take of this. But here's it's very short clip, and then I'll chat about it a little bit.
I really feel I have an obligation from this. As a president, I have to be able to make sure that all of our industries do well. Crypto is a big industry.
Okay. Short clip, short but sweet. This was posted by Watcher Guru. Again, President Trump is making it an obligation to ensure the crypto industry goes up. And we have heard him say this a couple of times in different respects. The first one that comes to mind, Trump has been saying for a while that he's looking at the stock market and, of course, the Bitcoin price as an indicator of how he is doing as a president. Now, he has the stock market angle. It's obviously at all-time highs. I don't know if you guys check those, S&P 500, the NASDAQ QQQ, Dow Jones, but they're all but one at all-time high. The only one that isn't back at all-time high is Dow Jones, and we all know the famous Dow Jones is almost at 50,000, and it completely dumped, and that was a huge scandal, and now Pam Bondi's out. And what we are seeing, though, is stock market is basically back at all-time high. So he's winning on that front. Now, what I think is interesting about this very short clip is we know for a fact that Trump is looking at the Bitcoin price as an indicator of whether he's doing well or not. And again, my cynical view here is maybe we don't want him doing that because in the last year or so, the price hasn't been doing too hot, man. We have the quote, first Bitcoin president in the United States, and the Bitcoin price is 50% off. Like, maybe we don't want the president focused on Bitcoin. But also, You could argue, at least most people are arguing, that Trump has been a net positive for Bitcoin. We've all tried to minimize the damage of his shitcoin scams, of him embracing Bitcoin, of the Genius Act, the Clarity Act. Now, I think you could argue, and this is me reading, this is me connecting dots that aren't there per se, but when I hear that clip of Trump making an obligation to really focus on the Bitcoin industry or the crypto market at large, it really makes me think that there's going to be a stronger emphasis right now. And I think pushing through the Clarity Act, as we saw about a week ago, Trump very deliberately tweeted saying that anyone's trying to stop the Clarity Act, that it's trying to be sabotaged, that, you know, that's un-American, that's not what you should be doing. So they put their weight behind Bitcoin, behind the Clarity Act. And that's when I saw this clip. It made me, that was the first thing I thought about. It made me think that there is definitely a push behind the scenes to get the Clarity Act through, because everyone has this view, at least if they, I guess, are more bullish, that the Clarity Act is going to bring a lot of capital into Bitcoin. So when I heard that clip, that was like the first thing that came to my mind. It's just interesting that we have the sitting president, and in the face of all kinds of crazy stuff, that he's still out here like, crypto industry's huge. We're making an obligation. We're going to make sure, basically without saying, we're going to make sure it starts pumping. So, you know, I'd love to see that. On the one hand, that's been my thesis this whole time, that the only thing I really cared about with institutions coming in was I expected them to pump our bags. But if that Jane Street story is any indicator of what is happening, they make money whether Bitcoin is down or up. And Jane Street, they're like the most profitable quarter, I think, ever. They're up there with one of the most profitable companies right now. And again, Jane Street, we really don't know what they're doing, how they made most of that money. But all of us Bitcoiners for the last couple of months have really suspected them for being the ones that are suppressing the Bitcoin price. And it just so happens that when they were getting sued for price suppression, literally the next day, Bitcoin starts pumping. So a lot of things are playing out at once. But hey, President's out here still trying to pump Bitcoin. Let's see if it'll happen. Obviously, we've all been joking that we would probably be a lot higher if Kamala was president right now. If we had a U.S. government that was fighting Bitcoin, maybe Bitcoin would be higher, because we have one that's embracing Bitcoin, and we're playing out exactly as it was in the past. Now, with that in mind, though, I think it's going to be very interesting, like I was saying in the beginning of the show, of what comes out of the Bitcoin conference. If we do get some pretty big news announcements, I think if we get more than just rhetoric coming out of the conference, then that's going to be a good sign of where we're going. Because I know a lot of people were getting angry, like I said a minute ago, over some of the speakers, what their speeches are called, and everyone's kind of saying, I'm kind of tired of the hot air coming out of their mouth. Like, we need some actual action here. We need some things done. But we are starting to see, like, this, you know, maybe it's coincidental that Trump's saying, yeah, I'm going to basically pump Bitcoin right in front of the Bitcoin conference. Obviously, the price dumped. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes out of the conference this week. And I can already hear you guys probably yelling. I'm not paying attention to the chat right now because, you know, I'm running the show. But we'll see if anything really comes out of it. I really would hope for some huge news to come out of this. But it's just hard for me to see what could really be said to really move the needle right now. I think it's just going to be a timing thing. Kind of as Andre was saying, we're seeing seller exhaustion kind of happening right now. There's less Bitcoin to sell. The price is in a pretty healthy position. We are seeing a lot of shorting happen, but nothing is really a leading, you know, charge for the next move up. we're all kind of waiting for Bitcoin to get out of this 80K range. And once we do that, then we'll see if this breakout is real. It really feels like the Wall Street psychology chart right now. We're all in kind of disbelief. At least I know I'm in. I'm like, this isn't a real rally, even though it feels like, if I want it to feel like one, I'm like, nah, dude, this is a sucker's rally. And it's a pretty good psychological point for where we currently are. I think we're all kind of feeling this is a sucker's rally, which maybe means it's going to defy what we think is going to happen. Anyways, I do want to look. I'm not the biggest fan of Chamath, but this tweet breakdown of the billionaire tax in California, maybe it's because I'm an ex-Californian, that it's pretty disgusting to say the least. But are we surprised? Not at all. So that's what I'm going to cover right now. I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you already know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
Hold on. Before I cover this, Mexico Hotto, do you actually believe this? Thanks. First of all, again, thanks for all the $20 super chats, bro. But he goes, everyone needs to understand that financial institutions own Bitcoin now. It's not for the people anymore. They own number go up. Everyone else is the exit liquidity. The Bitcoin ship has sailed. Do you actually believe that, bro? It's no longer the exit. Let me see. Everyone needs to understand. I agree with the first part. They do own Bitcoin now, but it's not for the people anymore. Come on, bro. You can't believe that. They do, in fact, short-term own number go up. I'll give you that. They obviously have been able to, I think, very clearly suppress the price. And it's not just like Wall Street. I think as we've been seeing, some of the numbers are showing that most of the shorting is happening right now on Binance. Binance basically owns the perp futures. And so maybe that has something to do with the pardon. Maybe, I don't know. I could be spreading conspiracy theories. But all of us being the exit liquidity, the Bitcoin ship has sailed. I don't know about that, bro. I don't think so. I don't think so, man. Not gonna make it, little bro. Okay. You believe that. All right. Well, then what else is there, Mexico? Hodl. What else is there? I think we just ride the fun now. Just, hey, they're gonna pump Bitcoin when it's ready. Okay. All right. Anyways. This is interesting. So again, Chamath, he is venture capitalist, part of the All In podcast. Bought Bitcoin very early. He has seemingly become not so Bitcoin friendly recently, but I think he's still a Bitcoiner. Here is this breakdown here. So if you are not familiar with what's going on in California, it's bad, my bros. It's super bad. There's been a quote billionaire tax proposal, or actually, I don't think it went through yet, but there's been a lot of talk about taxing the billionaires in California, and we've seen an exodus of people leaving California. Obviously, usually they go to like Texas or Florida, the more red states without state income taxes, where the money is treated better. Anyways, here's Chamath's breakdown of this, which is not a surprise when you understand the people that do this stuff, what they really plan to do. But I'll just read the tweet. Okay, so Chamath goes, the billionaire tax is actually an everyone tax. The billionaire tax is a new tax proposal written by 4 professors who don't believe in the American dream. Some of them aren't even American, go figure. Despite its name, it applies to every California resident who currently has assets or ever will. The creators named it the billionaire tax so you would get into a froth and wouldn't look closely at what it actually does to you. On page 26, it explains how the government can convert to an everyone tax without voter approval. They can also adjust the tax to be a yearly tax and not just a one-time, again, without your approval. Here's how the tax would work. As a voter, you're being asked to approve a tax that would require you to, 1, list all your assets and the value of each, then submit them to the California Franchise Tax Board. 2, authorize the tax board to appraise your assets and confirm the value of each. 3, pay a penalty of up to 40% of your tax bill if the board determines your reported value is too low in their opinion. 4, allow the tax board to subpoena your financial records from every one of your financial institutions for auditing. This everyone tax runs 34 pages of shifty language describing how the government plans to take your assets. Read the fine print and decide for yourself. If this were truly a billionaire tax, it would be 3 pages. It's 34 pages so that it can create the mechanisms to steal from all of you. Am I surprised at this? Not at all. Not at all. Maybe it's because I am a Californian that has fled. I didn't do it intentionally. I just, went and had some fun in Dallas with some friends, and now I work down in Florida. But I saw a lot of people talking about this where you see this happen a lot, where the powers that be, however you want to say it. I mean, this is like a very clear, collectivist tax, and you can see that something similar has been done in New York. Mandami proposed something very similar. I think it was like last week. But it's viewed in this idea of let's tax the billionaires. The billionaires need to pay their fair share. When in reality, it's like the rich people do pay most of the taxes. But that's not what I want to talk about here. It's the framing that we're seeing that Chamath is putting out there. That it starts off with this idea of, hey, we're going to tax the billionaires. But if you read the fine print, it will very easily, and maybe this is where you say slippery slope, it will end up taxing everyone. And we saw something similar happen with the creation of the Federal Reserve. Or actually, we've seen this happen with almost every government proposal ever. What's the saying? There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government action. And we're seeing this play out, which really, I think, sheds a light on the prevailing sentiment right now amongst a lot of the youth. We are seeing there is a fiat crisis playing out. There is a financial crisis playing out for the majority of people. Most people can barely get by. Rent's getting more expensive. Taxes are at levels that would make the founding fathers in the U.S. vomit and, turn around in their graves. And yet most people aren't economically literate. They don't really understand that socialism's failed everywhere it's been tried. It's not a successful way to manage capital, but it's a feel-good story. It makes people feel good that, yeah, we need to tax the billionaires. Like they're the oppressors, and I can't even straw man their views here, but they've oppressed the workers and they got rich off the backs of the slave labor of the masses or whatever. Whereas from my perspective, yes, there is some, I would say, maybe inherent inequalities, to put it nicely. But I usually view that the richest people in society are the ones that are the most productive. They're the ones that offer society the products that you use every single day. And especially if you think about California, Silicon Valley in particular, they're using all the products that we know and love and that we are indispensable with our everyday lives. And the very people that are using these devices are saying we need to tax them more because they aren't paying their fair share. And then the government uses this as an excuse to propose things that is going to literally hurt you. It reminds me of what we saw in New York. I forget the exact thing, but like Mamdani was running on this idea of we're going to make, rent and housing cheaper. And it turns out within a, couple of very short weeks that people were complaining about the rent actually increasing. Guys, it really is amazing just how much farther ahead you are with just a semblance of economic literacy. I was naive and young and idealistic as well. My 18-year-old version of me. And then I might have fallen for a lot of the few. Actually, I literally did. I voted for Obama. I voted once and I got scammed. And I've never voted again. And I did fall for the idealism. And then, life happens and you realize this isn't going to fix it. What's that one quote? If you're young and you're not a Democrat, you don't have a heart. And if you're old and you're not conservative, you don't have a brain, or whatever it is. You guys know I'm not good with remembering figures of speech here. But I literally lived through that. When I was young, I might have fallen for this. Now I realize, obviously, maybe it's because I'm older, a little wiser, that this usually ends with more oppression from the government, that it doesn't just stop with the intended group. It's going to get spread out to every single person. And this is really, really sad to me personally, because I always had this idea of, I'm going to be in California forever. It's like the last Mohican in California. I can't let the collectivists win. And then I had some friends that basically were like, yo, just move out to Texas, man. You'll have a lot of fun. I'm like, bet, let's go. Like, I'm out of here. Who cares? And now I'm in South Florida, literally farthest away from home that I can be. And it is extremely sad to see that California just keeps going lower and lower and lower, and they just keep digging themselves deeper and deeper into that economic grave. And there is no light at the end of the tunnel. It's just going to get worse. And it's unfortunate because I grew up there. I love that state. Well, parts of it. Parts of it. And here we are. It's just history repeating itself. We've seen this happen forever. It always plays out the same exact way. So, shouts out to Chamath, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Chamath. He's not the biggest fan of Bitcoin. I would say smart dude, but I give credit where credit's due. And him highlighting this, obviously, if you're a person that is looking at Chamath, you're like, yeah, of course a billionaire doesn't want a billionaire tax. But I think a lot of people are missing the point. That this isn't just going to end up that they're taxing the billionaires. It's literally an excuse for the California government to come after every single person's assets. If you even have assets, the majority of young people probably don't even have assets. They're just like, whatever, debt servitude forever, wagey for life. I will own nothing and be happy. It is what it is. At this point, let's just tax the people we don't like, because at least it'll make me feel good. Dude, Bro, I can't speak Spanish, dude. My Spanish is horrible, dude. Do you hear this Valley Girl accent? I can barely speak one language, man. Oh man. Okay. All right. Anyways, I just thought that was pretty crazy. Um it's insane that people think this is a viable way to fix society is just, let's just tax more. Let's just make the government even bigger. Let's just give the government more money. Actually, it reminds me of is JJ in the chat? JJ in the chat today on Rumble. No, I'm not really seeing it. So, I don't like to talk smack of people when they're not here. But our boy JJ on Rumble, a cash maxi. And I'm reminded of what he usually says. He usually says, like, money printing isn't the problem. We just need the right people printing money. And you're just like, yo, like, sounds like the same thing going on here. Taxing isn't the problem. We just need to tax the right people. We just need to get more money from the rich people, and then we'll be able to solve all the world's problems. Nah, fam. Even better, I don't think that. Oh, you're funny, bro. All right, guys. I'm gonna keep it moving. It's Monday. I'm here alone. Gotta wait until tomorrow to really get some good updates, but I'm feeling good, man. I really feel that we're in a good place in Bitcoin right now. It's like it's been kind of quiet in terms of price, but it really feels like the foundation is being built for the next leg up. And from some of the stuff I've been seeing, it's like, man, the next leg up. I know everyone believes in the diminishing returns meme, but the next leg up, I think it feels like it's going to be a bigger move than we've seen in the last two cycles. But again, I'm a bull. I'm stupidly bullish all the time. So I could be wrong again. I acknowledged I was wrong last year, but I don't know. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Do you guys feel like the next leg up, this next bull market is going to be bigger than the last ones? The last two in particular. 2021 and the 2025, I guess, from, tops. I really do feel like this next one's going to be bigger, but everyone believes in diminishing returns. But I think gold really fundamentally kind of broke that idea of bigger number means it's harder for bigger number. We just need a lot of capital flowing in. But anyways, I'll read the chat real quick. Last commercial break, and we will wrap up this Monday show.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, hold on. Opti was left home alone like Kevin. Oh yeah, I was. No, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with having to hold down the show. Personally, I didn't really want to travel. Love conferences, but I really don't like getting on planes now, dude. Maybe it's because it's you get on a plane and it's to work a long weekend or longer work days. I'm like, it's also tiresome. It's also tiresome. But some of you guys in the chat agree with me. I'm with Opti. Big move this time. I really hope. Familia, we did not have a real bull market during 2025. Senor Gringo, I just hope it goes over 150K at least. Yeah, me too, bro. Let's see. Ken, I'm loving these dips because I didn't expect cheap sats will be around for much longer. Yeah, I totally agree. Ian, doubling down. We are hitting the vertical bit of the S curve. I would love for that to be the case. I would love it. Don't we prefer solo opti? Look, I appreciate it. I do. But personally, I love when it's me and Nico on the show. I think when we are covering like topics, I think it's more dynamic when we either don't fully agree or we do agree because we can kind of parse out the information a little more. It gives us a slightly different perspective on things. Hold on. Wow. Sorry. So I think the show's more dynamic when there's more than one person on the show. Obviously, I can handle the show by myself, as you guys know. I really messed up by doing the show by myself that one day, a few months back, because I proved to Nico that I can handle the show alone. And now he's like, all right, dude, have fun, do the show. But I think the show, I think what you guys loved about the show is that there is a more dynamic messaging on the show when it's Nico and I. Nico has a certain perspective. I have a certain perspective. Obviously, that really diverted, and you guys crashed out on Nico when he was getting bearish in October. But even then, the show wouldn't have been good if I was being completely bullish and the price dumped. We needed Nico to throw a little cold water on us, man. So Solo, you guys are funny, man. You guys are funny. I can. Okay. I can handle the show, but I like when we argue. I like when, I'll say something and then Nico will add a slightly different take, a little more depth to what I'm saying, or vice versa. Nico likes to rant, and then I just pepper in some good commentary in there. But I will be doing the show all week alone. Okay, so I think so. I'd have to look at my schedule. I might have some guests this week, but for the most part, you're gonna get some solo Opti shows all week. So if you like it, come back. All right. Anyways, that's not what the whole culture is about. Yeah, that's not what the culture is. I do want to talk about this. And you guys could say, this is a show, this is a plug, because BitKey is one of our sponsors, as you know. BitKey. Love it, love it, love it. But they just dropped. So this probably is the biggest news announcement so far that we heard from the Bitcoin conference, is that BitKey made a new version of the BitKey. Same BitKey, but they added a screen on the back of it, guys, which is huge. Everyone was basically saying, look, the BitKey's super cool. But one of the things that we didn't like is that I can't verify that I'm sending my Bitcoin to the addresses that I think I am. I don't like it because there's no screen on it. Now, obviously, some people don't like it because of the, as it says, no seed phrase. The multi-sig by design was really kind of one of those features that everyone thought was really cool. But now they added a screen on it. So let's see. Look at this, guys. Wait, does it show it? Was it the other one that I saw? Oh, here, you can see it right there. Check it out, guys. Same BitKey, but now a screen on the back. Now, obviously, I'm not just talking about this because they're one of our sponsors. I think what is super cool about what we're seeing from BitKey, or rather all of Jack Dorsey's companies right now, is that they are listening to the customer. They are, dropping a product, they're iterating on it, they're getting feedback from the customer, and then they drop another product that's probably going to make everyone even happier. So here we go. Meet the new BitKey. Here's the picture. They got a screen on it introducing a BitKey, a new BitKey. Let's see. It keeps everything that's defined. BitKey from the start. 2 of 3 multi-sig by default. No seed phrase. Biometric access. Secure hardware that never exports its key. Recovery path for phone loss, hardware loss, and total loss. Built-in inheritance and an emergency exit kit that lets you leave with your funds no matter what happens to us. Huge. That was another big update. I didn't even notice that. And of course, the screen. BitKey screen goes beyond what you'd expect from a typical hardware wallet. Most hardware devices use the screen to validate transaction. BitKey uses it for so much more. Your wallet isn't just transactions. It's also a set of settings that defines what happens when things goes wrong. Who gets notified if someone tries to recover the wallet, where those notifications go to, who can help you recover if you lose everything, how much you can spend without the hardware, and who inherits your funds. Every one of those settings is a security critical decision. BitKey hardware verifies them all. Dude, it's not just because BitKey sponsors me, but Jack Dorsey is absolutely killing it in regards to all of his companies creating Bitcoin products, because as we've been talking about, Bitcoin is still so early. And how do we know it's early? It's because it's still extremely difficult to do very basic things. Now, it might not be difficult for us because we've been around in Bitcoin. We're so used to it. But for the average person, doing things as simple as just taking Bitcoin into self-custody, it is hard for them. And, this one was cool. But now there's a screen on the back of it. So we're going to have to get the updated one and play with it for you guys. We didn't get any first access to this. Okay, I'm gonna get one, and I will talk about it for you. But I did see this tweet by Thomas Templeton, who worked on this, and he goes, Bitcoin works when it moves. That only works if we build the systems underneath. Today, new BitKey hardware wallet, Bitcoin 5% back, and Bitcoin peer-to-peer payments on Cash App, NFC tap to pay, and Bitcoin toggle coming to Square, proof of reserves across the ecosystem. We're building the infrastructure so customers can actually use it. You got to love that. Is that not a perfect summary of what the culture is here for Bitcoiners? Jack Dorsey's doing that with Block. He's making it as easy as possible with the same security features that we love for the average everyday person to get into Bitcoin. Hence why I keep saying that we are seeing a lot of the building blocks for this next cycle of adoption. We've been covering, or rather maybe speculating on this show, whether we have left the early adopters phase and entering into the early majority phase. And as much as we may not like it, part of that early majority phase does come with the institutions. But on the flip side, with what we're seeing from a lot of the Bitcoin companies is, for lack of better terms, a lot of the Bitcoin, quote, cult mentality, I'm not saying it's going by the wayside, but we are seeing that a lot of the very hardcore Bitcoiners are building the product so it's easier for the next million, 10 million, 100 million, billion people to get on Bitcoin. Now, does that mean that we have the final Bitcoin products that people are going to be using 100 years from now? Probably not. But we are starting to get to a point where the products are getting updated and they are a lot easier for everyone to use. It was actually funny. I think I brought it up on the show a little while ago. I had one of my good friends reach out to me, and this was probably end of last year-ish. And he knows I do this show. He's been in Bitcoin for a long time, but he kind of tuned out for a little bit. And he hit me up and was wondering, okay, like, can you just refresh me on taking my Bitcoin into self-custody? And I'm like, yeah, and, I did the whole thing. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, is there any new Bitcoin products? And he's like, I swear, in the 5 years that I've been in Bitcoin, there hasn't really been any new products. And I was like, well, the BitKey. And he's, did a little research. He's like, oh, that's like really cool. It's super easy. It's convenient. It's like, it really feels like there hasn't been any new Bitcoin products. And now we're getting to the point where I'm just like, hey, dude, just buy a BitKey. Super easy. You don't have to deal with all the headaches that you're kind of familiar with. And now they just made it even easier. Biggest announcement so far is the BitKey with the screen coming out of the Bitcoin conference. Yes, also refreshing to see them add proof of reserves. You're familiar, buddy. Nico's basically this is how she talk about Simply Bitcoin. Yeah, guys. You guys look. You guys give my boy a lot of shit. And actually, I give him shit too. But that's just because we're friends, and that's how I show my friendship and love. But the chat, you guys are vicious. You guys are vicious. We wouldn't be here without Nico. All right. When Nico's away, we're gonna be nice. We're gonna be nice, okay? We are going to be nice. Anyways, guys, that's the Monday show. Again, I am going to be solo this week. Actually, one more thing that I almost forgot. This week might be a little weird. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to be in the studio. They're actually like repairing the roof. So, bear with me this week. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to be I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to stream from the studio all week long. But again, they are going to be repairing the roof right now. There is some water damage. It's like leaking when it's raining, and it's about to be rainy season. So hopefully tomorrow I am able to stream from the studio, but there might be a lot of noise here. So if it happens that I'm not able to stream from the studio, then I might just have to stream from my apartment, and it's not going to be, the pretty studio. It'll be a bare bones setup because I have to probably last minute get the stream set up. So this week might be a little strange. Hopefully you guys don't notice anything. Hopefully I'm able to just stream from the studio all week long. It is going to just be me. I will be holding down the show. I think Nico might get back Thursday. I doubt he's going to come on the show Thursday. So maybe the Friday show he'll be back. So I'm going to hold it down. But this week might be a little strange. It might go to a bare bones setup. The background won't be that sexy. I'll still have a camera. I'll still have a mic. But I don't know. Just bear with me. This week could be a little strange because they are repairing the roof here. So I don't know. All I'm saying, it's up in the air right now, but we will be doing a show all week long. It just might be a little different. Okay. Anyways, guys, it will be streamed from a bathroom closet, dude. Basically, it'll be a throwback stream. I don't think I'm going to do the whole green screen. We'll figure it out. Okay. I just want to pre-warn you guys. This week might be a little strange, but you'll get a show nonetheless. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. Stack some sats, eat some good food, call your loved ones, get outside, get a walk, get some sun on you. All that good stuff. We're going to get a glimpse at the BTCW. You're going to see a blank white wall, okay? That's basically all you're going to get, all right? Anyways, peace out, guys. Have a good rest of your day. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.